Kenny's Audiophile Record Reviews. Thank you very much for viewing my video. As always, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. Please hit that thumbs up button. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. That'll help out my channel analytics and get my video to a wider audience. I appreciate that. In this video, I'm going to review two upcoming releases on the Tone Poet Blue Note series. As of the posting date of this video, these two albums are going to be released in November 2025, and I'm going to use my older pressing of one of them, and in one of them I'm going to review on CD. And after that, I'm going to review a follow-up album to a legendary jazz album from a legendary jazz musician on a legendary jazz label, and see if that follow-up album compares favorably to his previous album. You definitely want to watch that review at the end of this video. But I'm going to start by reviewing this Frank Sinatra album. This is my older copy of the album, Frank Sinatra, in the Wee Small Hours. Now this is going to be reissued on the Tone Poet series label on November 14th, 2025. So I'm going to give my impressions of the sound and the performance on this album in this video. And oh, by the way, here's the album that I was used for this video. And I'll give you, as a baseline, give you what's etched in the dead wax of this album, just as a baseline. You know what I use to listen to this album on. What's etched in the dead wax, it looks like W1-581-D10. That's W1-581-D10. And that's on side one. It seemed like some type of anvil type of symbol stamped in the dead wax on side one. On side two is W2-581-D10. And there's a number 2 etched in the dead wax as well, along with that anvil symbol stamped in the dead wax on side 2. So that is the album that I used to make my assertion or review of this album. The album was originally released in 1955 on Capitol Records. Again, this is a gray label version of the album. Before I get to the review, I'll tell you the equipment I used to listen to this album on. I did not use my Rega P8 turntable with the stereo Apheta 3 cartridge. I opted to use my Technics SP-15 direct drive turntable. And the cartridge I used was this Audio-Technica AT33MONO cartridge. And it's attached to a Yamamoto SH4 head shell. Now, I chose to use the mono cartridge because, to give you some background, I also have a Mcintosh C28 preamplifier, and on that Mcintosh C28 preamplifier is a stereo mono switch. And I've done comparisons between the stereo mono switch and a true mono cartridge, is Audio-Technica AT33MONO cartridge. And a mono cartridge sounds better. It's a better listening experience when listening to mono records, and it sounds better when listening to mono records, even better than my Rega P8 turntable with a Apheta 3 cartridge. It just gives you a more vivid and a little slightly more realistic listening experience using a true mono cartridge versus a mono stereo switch. That's just my opinion on the comparisons I've used. And also I use my Phono preamplifier as a Whest. That's WHEST 0.20 Phono stage. My preamplifier is a Past Labs X2 preamplifier. My power amplifier is a tube power amplifier, which is a Balance Audio Technology VK60 tube amplifier. I had a choice between using my Balance Audio Technology VK tube amplifier, VK60 tube amplifier, Marantz Model 8B tube amplifier, and my solid state phase linear dual 500 series 2 amplifier, but I opted to use the Balance Audio Technology VK60 tube amplifier. Also, my speakers are from a company called Kindel. You spell it Kindel. DEL. They are PLS-A speakers, and they stand approximately 67 inches from the bottom to the top. They're very tall speakers. They give an awesome listening experience when listening to a record, stereo or mono. Again, issued in 1955. This would, I'll show you the song listing. This is almost like a concept record, you know, themed in issues of love. And it's a great theme, a great concept record by Frank Sinatra, arranged and conducted by the awesome Nelson Riddle. His contribution to this album was over-the-top phenomenal. And when I'm listening to Frank Sinatra on the equipment described, Frank Sinatra is very exceptionally strong and vivid in the sound stage. It's very difficult to describe. His voice was so exceptionally strong and tall. Since my speakers are tall, he exists so tall in the sound stage. It's almost like I'm looking up at Frank Sinatra as he performed. It's a beautiful effect in this smallish room I'm in with those big speakers, and it sounds awesome. I was amazed by the strength and the presence and the "you are there" feeling of his voice on this pressing of the record. And his phrasing, his interpretation of these songs, how he interpreted these awesome songs on this album were just simply stunningly sensational, in my opinion. And the orchestra by Nelson Riddle, the marriage of Frank Sinatra and Nelson Riddle was just perfect. Nelson Riddle hit it out of the park because this album, without the arranging and conducting by Nelson Riddle, would have been lesser than, but it became greater than with the awesome vocal performance of Frank Sinatra and the sensational contribution in arranging and conducting by Nelson Riddle. This is an over-top, exceptionally great album because you hear Nelson Riddle's orchestra, even though it's mono, so vivid and clear, and the instruments within the orchestra you can hear so vivid and clear on the equipment that I was using on that mono cartridge. What a sensational performance, a fantabulous mono effect. And this album, like I said, I was just amazed by the strength of his voice and the power of his voice on this particular record, Frank Sinatra. It's stunning in terms of his performance. I believe this record in the Rolling Stone magazine top 500 of all time, this might be in the top 200 or 100 records of all time on that list. But it's perfect is what I'm trying to say. Sinatra and Nelson Riddle were perfect on this album in terms of their pairing. The performance on this album, the song selection, were just sensational. The performance a 10, and the sound is a 10 using the equipment I was using. Now, my copy did have some surface noise here and there, and one song had some pop and ticks here and there. But I have the advantage of using this device it's called a Sweet Vinyl Sugar Cube SC2 Plus. A Sweet Vinyl Sugar Cube SC2 Plus. And what it does is when I run the output from my phono stage through that, turntable through that device, through that unit, it takes the sounds of pops and ticks and surface noise, at least the unit I have, it eliminates it from what you hear. And it makes it sound like a mint record. There's a slight loss in, the sound stage or mono sound stage, but it's barely noticeable. And so I was listening to a dead silent, awesome, mint record when I played it through the Sugar Cube Sweet Vinyl SC2 Plus. So I had to do that on one song. But what a great performance. Like I said, 10 in sound, 10 performance. I have nothing great things to say about this record. Now, was this the greatest Frank Sinatra era, the 1950s? A lot of viewers out there love the 1950s vocal performances by Frank Sinatra. I opt for a different era. This is not my favorite Frank Sinatra era, although Frank Sinatra was quite stunningly sensational in the 50s. The greatest Frank Sinatra era, in my opinion, was the 1960s Frank Sinatra era. I'm talking about when he was doing hits like Strangers in the Night. Those are more engaging, more entertaining performances for me. Frank Sinatra, that's life. I love those songs. I love his interpretations of those songs. Frank Sinatra live at the Sands with Quincy Jones and Count Basie Orchestra was a stunningly great live jazz performance. Or September of My Years, when he did the song, It Was a Very Good Year. I think the 1960s was the greatest era for Frank Sinatra in terms of creativity, in terms of performances. That's just my personal opinion. I know that song, Luck Be a Lady Tonight. I think that's a 1960s Frank Sinatra song. That's my father's favorite Frank Sinatra song, Luck Be a Lady Tonight. Matter of fact, my father said many times over the years that Frank Sinatra was the greatest singer he's ever heard in his life. My parents saw Frank Sinatra perform in person. Both my parents passed away, but my father was a huge Frank Sinatra fan. He thought he was the greatest singer whom ever lived. I disagree with him. Me and my father are going to have to take that debate when I arrive in heaven to meet him. I think it's Luther Vandross, in my opinion. You can leave your comments in the comment section. Luther was the greatest singer of all time, in my opinion. Frank Sinatra is a top 10, perhaps a top 5 singer of all time. But Luther, in my opinion, was the greatest. Frank Sinatra, in the Wee Small Hours, will be re-released on the Tone Poet series November 14th. And I plan to purchase it. I may not purchase it around the time of the release because I have some other album that I want to attempt to save for and get that one. So I might get that a little bit later, but I do plan to get that album, the Tone Poet version of the album. I think it was a great idea for the Tone Poet series to release that Frank Sinatra album. That is an outstanding, legendary album. It needed to be released. Re-release, I should say. Next one I'm going to review is on CD format. And this is going to be reissued as part of the Tone Poet series on November 7th, 2025. It's called Portrait of Sheila by Sheila Jordan. I have this on CD. And I reviewed this in a previous video before. And this CD features Barry Galbraith guitar, Steve Swallow bass, Denzel Best drums. I'll show you the song listing, by the way. I hope it comes out in the video. If not, I apologize. But I listened to this CD using my Sony SCD-XA9000ES Super Audio CD player. SACD player, which plays CDs. Again, that's a Sony SCD-XA9000ES Super Audio CD player with a digital output going to my Denafrips Pontus 15th edition DAC. I had a choice between the Denafrips DAC and my Luxman D-A06 DAC, but I chose my Denafrips Pontus 15th edition DAC when I was auditioning this CD. Now, I'm going to get to the soundstage real briefly. This says stereo on the label, but it sounds like an excellent mono recording in my mind because the voice and the instruments don't go too far outside of the mono sound space. That's why it sounds like a mono recording. Blue Note was notorious for not recording the bass and piano that well. We're lucky because this recording includes a guitar, bass, and drums, no piano. And the bass on this recording is quite good. It's very deep, very dimensional, very genuine. It sounds like a genuine bass. It really does. And Sheila Jordan, in terms of her interpretation of these songs and her phrasing and the way she interpreted the songs are sensational. She had a great voice that interpreted the songs at the time exceptionally well, and it holds up well when you listen to this CD in 2025. She had, like I said, she had this beautiful, this is a great late night listening session CD, along with that Frank Sinatra in the Wee Small Hours album. They're both great night listening albums. This one is sensational in terms of a late night listen because of her vibe and groove and her approach, the way she interprets these songs. Some of my favorite songs on this album are I Am Blue. She does a version of Dat Dare. Dat Dare, the best version of Dat Dare is called, spelled D-A-T space D-E-R-E, was Oscar Brown Jr.'s version of Dat Dare. He has the best version. of that there, but her version, her interpretation of the song is quite good. And another great song on here, Willow Weep, for me is quite good as well. And like I said, and Baltimore Oriole is quite good on this CD as well. She has a beautiful voice, and she was a performer for a very long time. She really was. Like I said, I reviewed this on a previous video a year or two ago, but I highly recommend you listen to Sheila Jordan, Portrait of Sheila. Again, it's going to be reissued, and this was originally issued in 1962 on the Blue Note label, either 1962 or 1963. Wikipedia says 1963. Discogs says 1962. I go with Discogs. They're the most accurate source. But I highly recommend you listen to this CD. She was formerly married to the great jazz pianist Duke Jordan from 1952 to 1962. I think they may have had a daughter together. And as of the posting date of this video, Sheila Jordan did not pass away all that long ago. She passed away August 11, 2025 at the age of 96. So she lived a full life. I have one more album, Sheila Jordan album, is called The Crossing. This particular album was issued on the Black Hawk label in 1986. She surrounded herself with great musicians on this album too. Kenny Barron, Harvey Swartz, Ben Riley, Tom Harrell. It's a great album as well. A more modern version, again issued in 1986, of Sheila Jordan's fantastic voice. But check this out on YouTube. Again, I'm going to purchase that one. I don't know if I'm going to purchase it at the November 7th release date, but sometime after that I may purchase it. Like I said, I'm trying to save up for one or two, or at least one album I definitely want to get. So I'm going to get those, but maybe a little bit later after release. Now I'm going to review an album, and it is a follow-up album to this legendary Pharoah Sanders Karma album. This Pharoah Sanders album, Karma, was, I believe, issued in 1969. And this is a very emotional, very expressive, very, like I said, emotional, engaging performance by Pharoah Sanders. One of the more emotional performances you can ever hear, short of like John Coltrane. He put everything in this album. Again, originally issued in 1969. I heard this as a kid because my brothers had this album. What a sensational performance on Karma. But he had a follow-up album. And the follow-up album, and they're both on Impulse Records, by the way. Pharoah Sanders, Jewels of Thought. I believe it was issued late in 1969. This album features Pharoah Sanders, Leon Thomas, Lonnie Smith, Richard Davis Bass, Cecil McBee, Idris Muhammad, and Roy Haynes. I'll show you the inside of the gatefold. Although on this version of the album, I'll show you the song listing. I hope it comes out. I hope it's not too bright. If it's too bright, I apologize. On this album, there are 3 songs, but in essence, there are 2. Because the second song on side 2 is the beginning of the song on... the second song on side 1 is the beginning of the song on side 2. The song Sun in Aquarius. Because part 1 is on side 2. Part 2 is... I'll mix it up. Part 1 is the second song on side 1. Part 2 is on side 2. And I think some reissues of this album, Sun in Aquarius, probably on CD version, is merged together. But they had to split them up on this album because it's so long. The first song called Umala, 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 you have that yodeling by Leon Thomas, and his vocal performance on that song and the message on the song is quite good. You have very expressive performances on that song. And also on the song Sun in Aquarius, the beginning of that song, it has this very immersive effect in the soundstage. And it sounds great if you close your eyes and just listen to that song, turn up the volume. It has a very immersive stereo effect on the song Sun in Aquarius. The performances on the song are quite engaging. especially Pharoah Sanders near the end of Sun in Aquarius. He's playing very expressively like he did on Pharoah Sanders' Karma album. But this album falls short of the Karma standard, in my opinion. It seemed like they gave everything they had to give in the album Karma, and they were attempting to do the same thing on this album, Jewels of Thought. But it's almost like they were trying to get there, trying to get to the standard of Karma. They didn't get there, and they fell off the edge. Karma has more memorable moments, more expressive moments, more emotional moments, and the vibe and groove of Karma, from the expressiveness in play and the beauty of play on Karma, because there's beautiful moments in Karma, are missing on Jewels of Thought. This is a very good album, but it falls short of the Karma standard. Check this out on YouTube. If I would judge the performance on Jewels of Thought, I would give it probably a 7, 7.5, and the sound probably an 8.5. It falls short of the Karma standard Jewels of Thought. Please leave your comments in the comment section below on the albums reviewed in this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for viewing my video. God bless, strong love, and more important than music, let's keep the peace worldwide.